I know this is really hard for people to hear, but narcissists won't ever change. I've never met a narcissist that I heard has changed. I've heard a lot of women say, it's not fair because if I leave him, what if another woman gets the better version? What the hell is that? I would say parents are a mirror to their kids. They have to take care of themselves so that the kids see that and repeat healthier patterns. He said, which hand do you write with? I said, my right. He said, with your left hand, try to write what your inner child wants to tell you with your left hand. It's going to come off, weird, and you're not probably going to understand it. You're not going to write it well. And with your right hand, try to write to your inner child what you want to tell it. One of the main components of being in these types of relationships, you're going to realize nothing you do is good enough. You please them, they want more. You don't please them, why aren't you pleasing me? Hello, everyone. Today is all about narcissism. Today's episode is actually very special because I feel like this word is used profusely and out of context, actually, because every other person that hurts us or we see a little bit of selfishness, immediately we jump to thinking he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist. I invited Natalie Jambazian, licensed marriage and family therapy and narcissistic recovery coach. She works with a lot of women who are coming out of narcissistic relationships. She helps them really find their essence again. And this conversation that I had with her was really special, intense in a way, but very special because we did learn what narcissism is so that we don't label everybody with this word. So it was very special to hear her research. She is an author now. She did write her book, and I'm just so proud of her, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on her book. She is going to release it very soon, and I'm really, really grateful that she joined me today. So today's episode, again, is all about narcissism and what it is. What is a true narcissist? What is a gaslighter? How can you detect a narcissist? What can you do if you are in a relationship with one? What can you do if you're recovering from a relationship from a narcissist? What that withdrawal is like, what the recovery is like, everything and anything narcissism related. So enjoy this episode and make sure to subscribe to this channel. Enjoy with Natalie Jambazian. Natalie, it's so nice to see you.
Nice to be here. Thank you for
Oh
having
my
me.
God, of course, it's an absolute honor. I'm so
thank
excited
you.
to have you here because we're going to talk everything narcissist related, from parenting to relationships. So I'm very excited for today.
Excited to be here. It's my passion talking about this topic.
I know. I love your Instagram, and it's actually really relatable, and it's when I look at your Instagram, I always learn something. And I
Oh,
think that's
thank
really
you.
important. Yeah, especially when you're pointing out like narcissistic, like those videos. I think
Yeah.
it's really, really, really important that therapists like put a fun twist to it.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Thank you.
Of course. Natalie, tell us a little bit about this word narcissist. Like, I think it's thrown around tremendously, and we were talking earlier, you said it's misused,
Mhm.
and I loved how you said it takes away from people who actually have experienced it.
Yeah.
So what is a narcissist exactly? How can we tell that a person is a narcissist?
Yeah, good question. Like you said, the term is overused. So I think that because it's overused, it takes away the credibility of a survivor who actually is dealing with, narcissistic abuse. So in order to understand narcissism, I would say it's on a spectrum, a wide spectrum. Not every person is going to have narcissistic personality disorder, but they will have some sort of traits of a narcissist. So, for example, the lack of empathy, for example, is part of narcissism. Lack of responsibility or accountability, feeling like they're very grandiose in the way they show off or see things. Um, they're also pathological liars. There's so many traits there like that we can get into. But you asked me another question. You said, "How could you tell?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's really hard to tell sometimes.
Mm.
And other times it might not be. Sometimes you look at someone on TV and you're like, oh, this is pure narcissism, right? But there's the other version of narcissism, which is the covert version.
Oh,
And
the
that,
victim, right? Is that
yeah,
what it is?
they victimize themselves.
Yes.
But covert narcissist is, I always say, is a person who has two masks. One, they show to the public that they are kind, caring, compassionate, loving. Wow, this person is so great.
hmm
But behind closed doors is a different mask. Someone who is cold, someone who is rude and insulting to their partner.
I want to understand this a little bit more and help our audience understand this a little bit more. People misuse this word constantly. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into like what are the red flags? Like if I don't know you're in a relationship and you see something's off, but you can't really like understand what's going on. Like what are the red flags of a narcissist? Like how can you tell and save yourself from being in a relationship with someone who is actually
It's really hard to tell the red flags from the beginning when you start dating them.
really?
The red flags come later when the narcissist already kind of like sucked the person in. That's when the red flags come in. And I think a lot of survivors, whether listening to this or have a person in their lives that going through this, they would understand because the red flags don't show up. And it would be easy if it shows up, right? Because
hmm
then you can leave the relationship. It's when you're sucked in, you're trauma bonded, and it's hard to leave.
Wow,
Mhm.
that is intense. What is this trauma bond? Tell us,
So,
educate us about that.
so the trauma bond is basically this addiction that you feel in a narcissistic relationship. You're bonded by the abuse,
Wow.
unfortunately. And it's hard to leave. And I think that certain people are like, why aren't they leaving? You know, like the
Mhm.
abuse is there. They can't leave because they're bonded by them in this, like, in this chemical way.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
so it's definitely this like the nervous system and chemically they're attached to this person. I always say that like when you're in a narcissistic relationship, you're addicted. So when you leave, you're detoxing. So that's what trauma bond is. It's an addiction to a person.
And what needs to happen in a person's life for them to be able to bond this traumatically to someone who's abusing them? It's interesting to me.
Yeah.
What
So,
kind of a childhood, right? You think about
oh, you mean like going back
yeah,
to
like
childhood?
why
Yeah,
would a beautiful individual or a handsome individual be tied up to this type of abuse? Like what needs to happen in a person's life for them
definitely.
to be able to like this kind of
Yeah.
behavior from
Mhm.
this respect from another person.
That's a good question. A lot of the work that I also do with my clients is going back to
Mhm.
childhood and unpacking this childhood wound, as I call it, the inner child that's there. And the inner child was not loved. Um, there was no unconditional love, it was conditional.
Oh, wow. Can you
And
tell us about that?
yeah, so a lot of the survivors that I work with, they either have been gone through sexual abuse,
Uh-huh.
they've had a narcissistic parent in their lives, and so they are attracted to narcissists as they get older. So that manifests later on in their adult relationships.
Oh my gosh. So it's like a learned behavior in a way. Not like it's like a behavior, but it's like a need. You grew up with a narcissist parent and it's very familiar to you.
Exactly.
So you tend to search for someone who has similar traits
Subconsciously, yes.
subconsciously and you
Yep.
gravitate towards that.
Mhm.
But then something happens when people who have been in relationships like this, something switches on and they're like, this isn't right. I feel off. Is it
Yes.
hard for them to understand that piece?
Yeah, if somebody has been gaslit so many times, you know, we were talking about like not every person who gaslights is a narcissist.
Yes.
Gaslighting is constant manipulation.
I want to kind of dive into that because
Mhm.
I think it's actually, I'm very happy you brought this up because you're right. Anytime someone's manipulated or gaslighted, immediately a person goes to, oh my God, that's a narcissist.
Mhm.
How many times does a person need to be manipulated and gaslighted? What's the cutoff for them to be like, okay, this is a narcissist?
There isn't.
Wow.
There isn't a cutoff with a narcissist. They constantly manipulate to get their needs met. They constantly lie. They constantly will tell lies and smear other people's name, like smear their romantic relationships so that they don't look like the bad person. They constantly victimize themselves. It's not once or twice. It happens over time. It happens forever because the narcissists don't change. They don't really change. They are who they are.
And I want to clarify this. People are not born with this personality disorder, correct? This is something developed in childhood.
We don't have research that shows that it's a part of DNA,
Uh-huh.
but from the research that I have also done is narcissists become a narcissist when it is learned from childhood. So for example, like, their parents put them on a pedestal and continue put them on a pedestal. They have this like godlike personality.
Mm.
And that's one reason a narcissist becomes a narcissist. Another actually is when they're also sexually abused or verbally, psychologically, mentally abused growing up. And they become a narcissist and they grow up victimizing themselves. They grow up manipulating others. They grow up like just kind of lying to others
As a way to cope.
as a way to cope.
Like it's a coping mechanism and then it develops to something even more serious.
It's a mask because they're
mask.
so insecure inside, deep inside, that they always have a mask on. And that mask is, I'm confident. I'm better than you.
I was gonna say a lot of people say, "Oh, he's too confident." I've heard this before. "Oh, he's too confident. He's such a narcissist." So it's contrary. It's narcissist is deeply insecure.
They're jealous, possessive. We were talking about the traits, right? It's all coming. There's
Yes.
so much. There's so many traits, I think. Not everyone is going to have the same exact traits, but there's a constant there, which is controlling. They're very controlling and possessive at times. They isolate their victims.
Isolate their victims.
So what I mean by that is when you're in a narcissistic relationship, they start slowly isolating you from friends and family, right? And then all of a sudden you realize it just happens out of nowhere. You realize I haven't seen my friends and
Like,
family
no
in
one's
a long
around me.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's around you either because everybody else is fed up. I get that. People are kind of fed up because they see the true nature of the relationship, whereas the victim has the rose-colored glasses and they have yet to remove the rose-colored glasses and actually see what their relationship is like versus how they want it to be.
Why do they do this? Why do they isolate? Why do they jeopardize relationships?
To control their victim, to control them, to gaslight them so much that it makes the victim feel like they're going crazy.
And what I'm hearing you say is that the victim gets what the person wants from narcissists, which is what? What does the victim get in all of this? I'm curious because
That's a good question.
because my mind goes to, okay, you attract each other, right? Like you attracted the narcissist and he attracted you. So what do you get out of this? What does the narcissist give you that you're in this relationship for a long time and is it like love bombing you? I don't know. Like, what is it?
Yeah, yes, love bombing, but also future faking. Because when you want to be in a committed relationship and the other person is actually showing you they want to be in a committed relationship too, they're giving you also attention, they're bringing you around friends and family, and you're thinking, wow, I feel special to this person. So the survivor, as I call it, idealizes the relationship. And they don't really get anything out of it besides fakeness.
But they can't see that.
It's hope.
Oh my goodness.
It's hope that things will change. It's hope that things will be better. It's hope that this idealized version of their future will come true.
It is. I see that. I see a lot of women in this hope. He's going to change.
Yeah.
And they stay for years and years and years hoping and sometimes even reaching out to a therapist themselves. I don't know if you've had this, but I want to come with my husband, but he's saying that I'm the crazy one.
Yes.
And it's so hard seeing beautiful women struggle in relationships like this. That hope really hit hard because you're right. A lot
Mhm.
of women sit in hope, hoping to change. Then their life is passing by.
Yep.
And there you go, 20 years and you're
Mhm.
still with the narcissist. Now you have cancer, you
Oh,
have
yeah.
all kinds of medical issues.
Mhm. Actually, yeah, a lot of clients that I have had autoimmune disorders
Mhm.
or gastro issues, especially in women. I see that.
Autoimmune,
Uh,
right? I see that
mhm.
a lot, like thyroid or lupus. It's all
Yeah, a
kinds of
lot of
things
the
arise.
the hormones are
Mhm.
off
Mhm.
because of years and years of stress.
You're right.
Mhm.
So how can they leave relationships like this other than so being conscious is number 1, being
Being
aware?
being aware and identifying their traits would be the first step. Identify what type of narcissist you're dealing with.
What types are there?
So I was talking about like the covert,
Covert?
overt. I think those are the two main ones that I talk about. So covert is the one who has two masks. Overt narcissist is someone who is like very extravagant and like show off and like, I have my Lamborghini outside and in the front, I'll come pick you up and we'll go to like catch like
Mhm.
I don't know, like it's
Yeah,
beyond. I'm not just trying to like say like everybody who has a
but it's more
Lamborghini,
than that.
it's so much more than that. It's somebody who's grandiose, someone who is selfish. It's all about them. It's my way or the highway. They don't respect their partners at all. They insult their partners and they also devalue them. So when we were
In
talking about
public?
sometimes in public, they also devalue workers, like public workers. So if somebody's an overt narcissist is when they're rude to like staff or they're rude to like someone serving.
Because they see themselves better or it's because of that insecurity?
They see for overt narcissists, they feel like they're godlike and they feel like they can insult someone. They don't care. It's lack of empathy. Ultimately, they don't care. Mhm.
So what happens to women who leave relationships like this? The withdrawal process?
Good question. So the reason why people are trauma bonded is there's a cycle of abuse. You were talking about love bombing, right?
Yeah.
So love bombing, you said like how do people stay in this relationship? What do they get out of? Well, the love bombing is such a wonderful phase to be because the narcissist will like do extravagant gifts, maybe like I don't know, buy a trip somewhere or luxurious stuff, or like doesn't have to be big stuff. Like it could be little things. Oh, here's a flower. I thought of you.
They know what you like and they
Yes.
go
They
after
pick your
their pick your
vulnerabilities.
vulnerabilities. Oh
Mhm.
my God.
Yeah. And then after love bombing, it doesn't stop there. They start basically, once they suck you in, they start devaluing you.
That destroys you. I can
Mhm.
imagine how hard it would be
You're a
to
bad
leave.
mom. You're crazy. Right? Those are like some
Yeah.
of the phrases that
Uh-huh.
narcissists have used.
You're jealous, you're
Mhm.
insane, I'm not doing anything.
Yes. You're the problem.
You're
Yeah.
the problem. Oh my
Mhm.
God.
That's devaluing. And then afterwards, it's discard.
Hmm.
So discard is when they basically go silent. They won't talk to you. They won't
Oh.
communicate with you. They won't take any responsibility around the house, even if they have kids. They'll be out, you know, doing business stuff, let's say, and not come home until later on. That's discarding because then it makes the survivor feel like, oh, I must be wrong.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? Like it's punishment to the survivor. But guess what? As long as you're in the relationship, the cycle goes over and over again. And then you're trauma bonded. You're trauma bonded by the cycle of abuse, believe it or not.
Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin with that one.
It's tough, but it's important to know this. It's important to recognize this because once you do, you're slowly taking the rose colored glasses and be like, wow, so it's him, not me. It's not. And sure, we can take responsibility for our childhood and say, yeah, we did choose a partner like this. That's for sure, right?
Mhm.
We can take responsibility and say, yes, I was attracted to this person. Now I'm not because I see the real them.
What can a, there's going to be so many viewers and they're going to relate, and I know they're going to relate. How can they work on this hope, like this never ending hope? He'll change, he's going to get better. And they're by these men, hoping that these men will change. And they're even going to therapy together, but nothing's happening. Natalie, what advice can you give women that are in relationships like this and just never ending hope?
I know this is really hard for people to hear, but narcissists won't ever change. I've never met a narcissist that I heard has changed. And there are videos out there that shows like, it could be 1 in a million, but do you want to risk that? Do you have hope? And some people do have hope. Well, my one is the million that over a million that like they'll change, but they won't change. Not for you, not for anyone else. They'll find another supply to feed their ego. They will. But
Mhm.
I say when you leave the relationship, you start learning to find, like, you start basically healing because you're not healing in the relationship. Only after you leave a relationship, you start detoxing. And the reason why I'd say detox is because you start becoming very anxious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, survivors become very, very anxious because of there's this fear of the unknown, right? They don't know what's going to happen. They thought they were going to be in this relationship for the rest of their lives. Even married, let's say people, right?
Hmm.
They have a hard time leaving because they're like, what am I going to do after? I
I've
have
heard this.
kids.
Yes, and I've heard this also. Um, okay, but is there other men out there? What if I don't get married? What if I don't find another love? What if I
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
find a boyfriend? It's like, how do you help someone like that?
You work through you work through it with them
Mm-hmm.
with patience
Mm-hmm.
because it's really hard for someone to just get over a relationship like that. It takes time because imagine being gaslit in a relationship. If you've been in a relationship for like 20 years, let's say you're 20 years married to a narcissist, it takes not as much time, but maybe half the time to really work through it. Not to say you can't be in a relationship as you're healing, you
Mm-hmm.
can, but it takes a while to get to a place where you're not traumatized as much anymore and you really feel healed.
Does it take a while?
It takes time. It really depends on how long you've been in a narcissistic relationship. The longer you have, the longer it takes to heal.
How dangerous can narcissists be? Like, how
To
dangerous?
the point of like psychopathy,
Really?
sociopathic. Yeah. So we're talking about different types of narcissists.
Yes.
Okay. So the higher on the spectrum is the malignant narcissist.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the malignant narcissist is basically someone who is just like extreme like godlike behavior. That's how I would
And people like
portray.
this exist.
Yeah. Yeah, they think they're godlike. They're,
Oh my
they
God.
don't follow rules. They think they're above the law. They're very controlling and possessive, to the point that like I've heard people say like they have taken out like the Wi-Fi in the house, and like that's how isolating it could be. Very lonely. There's a movie if anybody gets to watch it, old movie. It's called Gaslighting. I think it's called Gaslight. It's an old like black and white movie, and basically what it is like this girl is in a relationship with a narcissist, and the narcissist is a very like victim mindset. And he starts turning on and off the light to mess with her and made her feel like she's sick.
Oh
And
my God.
over time, and she was like, I saw the light turning on and off. And he's like, no, it didn't. What do you mean? I was here the whole time. She's like, no, 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 it was on and off. And imagine how many times this person got gaslit to the point that she thought she was going sick. She thought there was something wrong with her, that she's sick.
Hmm.
That's what she thought. So imagine how much gaslighting can impact someone. It's terrible. So malignant narcissists gaslight all the time. It's extreme. Um, Above that is sociopathic people.
Murders.
Could be murderers, could be just, someone who feels like they're above the law, not necessarily only murderers.
Hmm.
It could be psychopaths that feel like they can get away with murder, hence,
Hmm.
quote unquote, but they're not always that way. Not murderers exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so intense. I'm so deep into this convo.
Yeah.
How about parents? I mean, are there parents like this raising children?
Yes.
And what does this do to the
I mean,
child?
speaking of, we were talking about earlier about children, right?
Hmm.
Like if you were raised with a narcissistic parent, you might repeat the pattern, right? So I work with kids as well. And I think that it is so important to help them through it, whether they pick up on the narcissism or whether they're opposite of their narcissistic parent. I really work on the root cause of that, right? The root problem,
Hmm.
and help them so that they don't become narcissists later on.
Oh, wow.
And usually there's only one parent who's narcissistic. It's not usually two. But the narcissistic parent always blames the other parent. Oh, they groomed the kids, and she or he wants me to go, like, he's basically like, she or he is basically making up stories to make the kids, not like me. So it's always like the other parent's fault.
What happens to children like this? Like, what happens to their childhood? What's like I mean, do they have anxious? Do you have anxiety? Do they have like mental health issues?
Children are extremely resilient, believe it or not. They can face anything, even if they are scared. So they do become anxious later on. They are scared and they feel lonely and isolated because if parents are divorced, their other parent doesn't want them to call the other one.
Yes.
And that is so sad. It
They're
is.
stuck in the middle and they get oh my God.
Yep. And sometimes a narcissistic parent will bait their kids in a way to manipulate them so that they go against the other parent who's
parent.
actually safe and secure for them. So children in those types of parenting, the narcissistic parenting, they don't feel safe and secure at all. And ultimately, that's the thing, right? We want to feel safe. We
Safe
want
and
to
secure.
feel secure in a healthy relationship. In a narcissistic relationship, you're always on a fight or flight. Your nervous system is always acting up because there's always something wrong, right? You're not ever safe. You're not ever secure.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever experienced like friendship or a relationship with a narcissist?
You can say that. I know that I was in a narcissistic relationship.
Can I get personal?
Listen, I say it. I feel I say it. I have been in narcissistic relationships too.
Really?
Two. One more extreme than the other. And that is the reason why I'm here today. I experienced it myself, and I feel like a lot of therapists, not all therapists understand this dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel
That's
like
true.
you have to experience it to really understand what that client goes through.
You're absolutely right to be able to help better.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest, through the years of working with my clients, it was healing for me too. I saw my own therapist.
Really?
Yeah. And, I also am in a healthy relationship. So I've been on a journey, it's been a really wonderful journey for me.
Can you tell us about your experience? I think that a lot of women will relate. And I think if you're comfortable talking about it, of course.
Yeah. Do you have a question for me? Because I can go on
Well,
and on. I'm all about truth, and I will tell you.
Well, first tell me, how did you know you were in a relationship with a narcissist? What point was there that you just woke up and you're conscious of it? I mean, yeah, you're a therapist, but
See, I hear that a lot, right? Like, you're a therapist and
you're supposed
right?
to know.
I'm
those
human
things.
first.
That's
I
right.
always say I am human first Just because, you're a doctor, you're not supposed to know like
Yes,
everything. You know what I mean? Like you're not
absolutely.
supposed to, well, you're a doctor, you're supposed to know. Well, not necessarily. They're human too, let's say.
Yeah.
I was in a narcissistic relationship that didn't last too long, and then I jumped right after that to another one. So it was, as you can tell, there was a pattern there. And what kind of got me into it, again, it's this idealized version of how I saw my life. And the way I found out is I felt extremely confused, exhausted, and I was just not understanding what was happening. I knew there was something going on. I was like, there's something, it's not my fault only. Like, there's something going on, right? I'm exhausted. I'm not happy. I cry every couple of days, right? So I went to the therapist, and the therapist said, I I remember this clearly. She goes, I think he has these narcissistic tendencies. I was like, what is that? Because we didn't, I don't know about you. Were you taught
No.
narcissism? And like, we just kind of
In your
skimmed through the
master's program
book.
or no?
We skimmed through the book. I
Mhm.
don't even remember
Mm-mm.
NPD. And first
Mm-mm.
of all, they don't even have a diagnosis for
Mm-mm.
survivors in the
Mm-mm.
DSM.
Mm-mm.
So I really didn't know. And I was like, whoa. And then it just hit me. Like, I was like, it was like a whiplash. I was like, wow. I started seeing clearly.
When you say you saw in the beginning, you said something. You said that's not the way you saw your life. Is that what you said?
I mentioned that like I saw the relationship as this idealized version.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so the idealized version is like looking at your future and like, oh, I'm gonna be engaged. I'm gonna be married to this
Yes.
wonderful guy.
Yes, you got your
Who has
wedding
a
dress already.
who has a very good profession. My kids are gonna be good. I think where I was talking about this, and I'm okay to say it, but you grow up thinking, I don't know if you grew up like that, but some people like me grew up thinking, oh, get married to a doctor, a lawyer,
Yeah.
but we don't realize I could be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you could be that person.
You could be that person.
But at the time, I was in a vulnerable space because I wanted to get married. I want to have kids. I wanted my kids to be good, and I wanted them to be secure too. And I'm thinking, oh, like this man is older. He's great. The other narcissist was a little bit different. It was just two different narcissists. So the other one, I literally had like this future, thing that I like this idealized future
idea in your mind.
with this person thinking, oh, we're going to be happy. And it's like,
Isn't that hope?
yeah. But then I wasn't focusing. I was focusing on the idealized version versus the actual version that I'm experiencing in the moment.
So you're being more like emotional versus logical,
Sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
thinking emotionally, like, oh, I'm going to
Mhm.
be happy, things versus what's happening.
Yeah.
And do you think that that's missing in a lot of victims? Like they're very emotional and not very logical and present about what's happening, like the situation.
I mean, I think emotions are like pretty valid. I see where you're at with that. I get that. But I think that like when it's too late, it's hard to not be emotional, like too late to leave or too late to like figure it out. Like right when you're trauma bonded, you're basically
Stuck?
Yes, you feel stuck. You feel alone. You don't know what to do. So, yeah, you could be emotional, but what does logic say? Yeah, heart and mind, right? Your mind says leave and your heart says stay. But it's not because they're not logical either. It's just they get confused by the heart and the mind. And they don't know what to do at that point.
When I'm thinking about this, it takes such strength to leave such relationship.
It does. It really does.
So draining. Like I'm just processing everything clinically, right? That
yeah.
can go through a person. And never mind the withdrawal, like while you're in the relationship.
It's exhausting.
Loss of relationship, loss of your self-respect.
Yes.
Loss of self-love. Trust in yourself. You're going crazy. What if I'm wrong? What if I leave? And by the way, I wanted to say this, that I've heard a lot of women say, it's not fair because if I leave him, what if another woman gets the better version?
I've heard that too.
What the hell is that?
I would say please let them. because they're not
What
going to
is
get that
that?
better version.
That breaks my heart into pieces when I hear women say that. Because you can tell by the woman's voice, they've put so much energy into this relationship. Or man. Sorry, women can be narcissists, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about men. Women can be narcissists too.
Yeah, for
By the way, I
sure.
don't want to, have men think like it's no.
Don't come at us.
Yeah,
But don't come at us. But research
women-
does show that like it's more
men.
men that are narcissistic, and also maybe that changes because it has a lot to do with the stereotype when like, when they're younger, they're taught to like be men and you can't like be emotional, whereas women can be emotional. So I do think there's that like learned behavior.
Yeah.
And I think since generations change, that could be different, but that is what research does show.
I'm going to ask a really interesting question. It
Mhm.
might be kind of like off and wow, but whatever. I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you notice that there's a lot of narcissistic individuals in the Armenian community?
Are you trying to like get us killed or something? Like, what are you trying to do it? Like, seriously? Are you sure you want to ask this question? No, I actually think no, to be honest, I have to be honest. Like, I'm Armenian. I love my like Armenian
What?
people.
Come on, let's be real.
Yeah, but I am. I don't think narcissism discriminates. I really don't.
No.
It's anybody and everybody.
Right, but
Right?
But
Race,
since we're Armenian,
gender. Well, I hear, even like my Persian clients say that too. Like,
Mhm.
I have a narcissistic parent and I have, but again, I agree. Like, I think it could be very cultural,
I
right?
think
The
that it is.
generational trauma getting passed
100%.
down. Right. But I also think that it just doesn't discriminate. Everybody and any race or culture, gender
Absolutely.
could be.
I think when I'm thinking about this, you have Indians, I think Indo-Europeans in general, Middle Easterns, there's just something there that majority of men and women have these tendencies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's because white people don't have it or black people don't have it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like I see it a lot within the realm of our cultures.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. Is it, parents raising their children privileged? Is it trauma? It could be trauma. It could be so many things, but
All of the above.
it's more exposed. You see it more.
I think that it probably also, I would love to do like that research.
I would
on
love to,
our
right?
culture and
Because you're
like
thinking like everybody else
root
is.
cause of it, But yeah, I totally agree with you. I do think it's like a generational trauma thing, just immigrant families coming to the US and not having anything. And they're
Oh my God,
older,
so
like, their older son or something has so much pressure and expectation to be a certain way in society as they get older. I actually think that men have a lot of pressure. I think we were talking about this. It's so much pressure to be
Yeah.
the man of the house, to take care of the house, to take care of your parents and your relationship and
Yeah.
your kids.
Siblings
So,
too, from little age too.
yeah, there's a lot of expectations, but the thing is like they grow up meeting those expectations and more. And, they feel like they could be superior maybe.
True. So help me understand this. Can a parent raise a child who's a narcissist unconsciously with not even knowing that they're doing it? Or
If the parent is narcissistic.
if the parent is narcissistic?
Yeah. So there's always the narcissist in the relationship, and usually there's the empath. The other partner is the empath.
Yeah.
Now, you get kind of that 50-50 dynamic, pattern that you teach your kids. Now, what I've seen is there are kids who grew up narcissistic. That is just something that they mirror from their narcissistic parent. Or the other spectrum is they see the side of their empathic parent and they choose to be more empaths, believe it or not. And they choose not to please their narcissistic parent. So kids want to please their parents. And those who
Yeah.
want to please their narcissistic parent is a never-ending cycle that is not going to be good enough.
I wanted to dive into this because yes, there's a lot of individuals in these relationships with their parents, and it's hard to say break away from them because in our culture, in the Middle Eastern, Indo-European cultures, this
Yeah.
that it's taboo. What do you mean need boundaries with your parents,
Yeah,
not seeing your
I
parents?
know.
So we've talked about like what the leaving processes, but what about the people that can't leave relationships with their parents that are narcissists or their lovers, husbands, wives? How can these people help themselves in a relationship like this?
Or I hear mother-in-laws. That's yeah,
Mother-in-laws, father-in-laws,
yeah,
absolutely. What can they do when they can't leave? They're stuck in relationships like this.
It's really difficult to engage with someone who is narcissistic, but there are tools and techniques that help. So one of the things we call it is gray rocking method. This one doesn't, you're basically stoned. Like you're just stoned still and you're just not saying anything, just nodding.
Hmm.
You don't react, you don't respond to this person. That's what they call
Wow.
it, gray rocking. Now, this doesn't work when you're getting divorced. Gray rocking does not work. You have to engage, even like talking parents. You have to engage with the other, even if it was a narcissistic person, you have to engage with them. So that's one way, gray
Gray
rocking.
rocking?
Gray
But
rocking.
wouldn't the narcissist see that you're kind of off? Wouldn't they pick on you more for that?
Yeah, because nothing you do is good enough. Even if you please them, it's still not good enough. Even if you gray rock them and you're like, okay, yes, sure, it's still not good enough. So you're going to realize, whoever is in a relationship like this is going to realize nothing you do is going to be good enough. So you survive. There isn't like
Oh
a,
my God.
yeah. So there isn't like, I wish there's like tools, but like, I wish I can say, here's an antidote and this would work in a narcissistic relationship.
So you're saying
There's-
nothing works.
No.
They
No.
should run. Like run away. Build that courage.
Yes.
And the support system,
I would
of course.
Yes.
To run away.
I would say leave. If you can, leave. If you can't, that's okay. We work through it. Me and my clients work through it. I never tell my clients to leave because ultimately I just show them how toxic it is. But I just feel like I come from a non-judgmental place and it really,
I can tell.
right? It makes my
I'm
clients
so
feel
the opposite.
it makes my clients feel very safe.
Yeah.
I'm very truthful, but
Yeah,
I meet them where they're
You're gentle.
at when they need to hear the truth. I tell them also.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
So there's this cycle that I see a lot. When you have a narcissistic parent or when you're in a relationship with one, you're constantly sucked into this conversation with them that it's like this gossip or
Mhm.
this drama that you have to constantly take. And sometimes you're aware of it. You know that if you take this gossip to this family member, it's not going to end well because they're going to go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But you do it anyway. Is that, I mean, it's a nervous system response. What is that? Is that fawn? No, that's not fawn. Where you're just like pleasing
Yeah, it's a fawn response.
it's a
You're-
fawn
Who are
response,
you
right?
pleasing though?
the narcissist.
Got it. Yeah.
So why I want to know, how can people break from that? Because you also see that like, people pleasing kind of like you're
Yeah.
going so that you're saying these things to them so that you're not the victim. They don't pick on you. You're trying to please them. Do you
Yeah.
notice this in victims as well?
Yeah. They try to overplease
Yeah.
and overcompensate
Yes.
to
Yes.
like, make the narcissist happy.
Happy, yeah.
But
There you go.
he or she might be happy for a minute or two. Guess what? The next day, they're not happy. They're very moody. They can wake up very like cold, right? They're like ice sometimes. Like they have no emotions. So you're gonna like the thing is one of the main components of being in these types of relationships, you're gonna realize nothing you do is good enough. You please them, they want more. You don't please them, why aren't you pleasing me? Why aren't you paying attention? Okay, well, I'll give you more attention. And then they devalue you. And then they insult you. And then you tell them, well, you insulted me. No, I didn't. And then you tell them, you're on your phone. Why are you on your phone all the time? Right? I when we're going out, I'd like to like just put our phone. Well, I'm working. Why are you saying this? I'm working. What's wrong with you? Something's
It's
wrong with
always what's wrong with you.
Yeah, it's always like you're the problem. What's wrong with you? And at some point, you're like, I must be crazy. Maybe I'm the narcissist, right?
Mhm.
I have survivors actually have said, like, am I the narcissist?
No way.
Yeah, almost every single survivor that I've worked with asked me that question.
What do you tell them?
I say, if you questioned yourself that you're the narcissist, You're not. Because narcissists don't question
They
themselves.
don't know that they are.
They don't know that. And if you call a narcissist, guess what? They're going to say you're the narcissist. So they blame it on you. They shift the blame right back to you.
I have so much empathy for women who are in relationships like this.
I do too. And I think that the more we talk about it, I mean, we've talked about it years ago. I've known you years already, right? And we've talked about that. And you
Yeah.
understood where I was coming from. And when I started the Self-Love Society page on
Yes.
Instagram, and that's part of it, right? Like, I also think that people don't love themselves enough to walk away from a toxic relationship. But it's okay because it does stem from childhood. And one of the things that I do with my clients is unpack the childhood wounds so that you don't repeat the pattern. And it's never too late to leave. Never too late.
Natalie, how can one love themselves?
One of the things that it's important to do is love their inner child.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. When you come from a dynamic growing up where it was conditional love versus unconditional love, you're going to feel like you need to please your parents in order to get love. And when you don't, you get punished. So because you didn't get that when you were younger, you have to do the opposite. You have to, as an adult, tell your inner child, I love you. I got you. I will support you. I will validate you.
Be your own parent type of thing?
Yeah. I also, what I do for clients, I tell them to like write a letter to their inner child. I know we hear this often, but it works so well because not a lot of people get to tap into their inner child unless if like they do the therapeutic work, right? And
That's true.
and I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but my book is coming out on.
No, you did not mention. What?
Yeah, my book is
No,
coming
you
out.
did not mention.
And one of the
That is amazing.
chapters is working on the inner child in order to love yourself. And yeah, it's called Detoxing from a Narcissist.
Natalie.
It's years of work and
When is it coming out?
sweat and tears. It comes out June 1st.
2 months.
Yeah, June 1st, and it's International Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day too. So I am such an advocate. And
oh my God, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
I'm excited to read it.
Of course, I will send it to you. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm excited for people all over the world just to kind of
need
get that
that.
kind of information because not everybody can afford therapy and
This is true.
yeah.
I'm more excited that it's an Armenian last name on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
book. That's
Yes,
phenomenal.
representing.
Yes,
for sure.
you are,
for sure.
100%. I did some trauma work with a therapist in the past, and it's interesting that we did some inner child work
Yeah.
therapy,
Mhm.
and he said for me to do something interesting. I wanted to share this.
Okay.
Thought it was really cool. The letter writing, he said, which hand do you write with? I said, my right. He said, with your left hand, try to write as your inner child, like what you want to tell what your inner child wants to tell you with your left hand.
Yeah.
It's going to come off, weird, and you're not probably going to understand it. You're not going to write it well. And with your right hand, try to write to your inner child what you want to tell it.
Yeah.
And it was so empowering.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that. It's very, very meaningful. Can you tell us a little bit about what's that unconditional and conditional so that people connect with that better?
So unconditional love growing up could be like, oh, you got bad grades. That's okay. Like, I'll help you. Let's do it together. How can I help you? Conditional love is like, you got bad grades. You're a bad kid. You need to get it up.
Oh, those words are real, you guys. People, parents have used that.
That's just one example, right? That's one example. And imagine over time, you hear that over and over again, right? So conditional love is like, oh, you're a bad kid because, I don't know, you did something wrong.
How come the other one's getting good grades and you're not? Comparison.
Yes, that's one of the key. Actually, that's great that you brought that up. That's one of the key factors of a narcissistic parent is comparison.
Constant.
True.
And conditional is you're great, you'll do better next time. It's more like empathy and love.
Exactly. That no matter what you do, I still love you. I'll still be here for you.
So the inner child work comes from a person having a deeper understanding and unconditional love of their inner child.
Mhm.
What would you say to somebody who feels like awkward doing inner child work because they're kind of like what is that? Like how do you introduce them to that type of work? Cuz people are going to ask that. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Like that's a little weird. What inner child? I have an inner child, but I'm a grown 35-year-old man. What's that? What do you say to them?
Maybe they're not ready to tap into their inner child because
Really?
everybody has an inner child. And that's the ego saying I don't want to work on myself. I'm too scared to work on myself, right? I'm
Oh
going to
wow.
avoid it as much as possible. I have a lot of male clients that come in and says, "You know what? Like I have an ego. Like I need to work on it." It's so wonderful to work with like males like that,
That's
right? Because they
amazing to
take
hear.
yeah, they take
Mhm.
responsibility and they're like, "Well, I've insulted my partner. Like what I need to change that." That's so amazing to
That
me.
is.
Yeah. So there are men who come in and really work on their sense of self, their ego. So the only way you can work on themselves is when you are aware that like you have to, take care of your identity and who you are and become better. And that's what I tell like I when I talk about narcissism, it's like I always say like teach your kids just better coping mechanisms
To
to take care of themselves.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. But
Mhm.
don't you think that kids need to also see that from their parents?
Yes, they have to do it
Right? Like
themselves.
model is
Yeah.
that's so hard cuz that's
Yep.
beautiful. You're absolutely right, but I feel like it's so hard to keep saying it if a mom's neglectful of self, if a dad's neglectful of self, and then how is the kid going to know how to love themselves like that?
I agree. Parents are a mirror to their kids. They have to take care of themselves so that the kids see that and repeat healthier patterns.
Yes.
So unlearn the unhealthy patterns. It's not about putting parents down. I mean, narcissistic parents, they are who they are, but it's not about putting them down. It's about understanding yourself
Do you read
and
my
work
comments?
which on an
When you said
yeah, no, I did
let
it.
me cut you off with sugar as we say it. When you said it's not to put parents down, every single thing that we post, short we post, there's a comment of stop shaming parents. And I'm like, it's not.
Well, not
It's
everybody's gonna
not.
be not
Correct.
everyone's going to like
Because Natalie,
agree what we say, what you
yeah.
say. And you've made it if there's like,
Oh, yeah.
opinions like that.
Yeah. There's
Right?
always going to be absolutely, but
Mhm.
it's not. It's truthful speaking. It's
I
why
agree with
you do
that.
what you do today because you're so passionate about people and you want people to be happy and live comfortably.
Well, it's people, it's like hear no evil, see no evil, there's no evil,
Hmm?
right? So people operate in that way
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what we get. Yeah.
That's why I'm like, did you read the comments? Because it's interesting. There's always that stop shaming parents. And when you said that, I was like, she's
Yeah.
not shaming you guys.
I know, no.
But going back to self-love again. So it's recognizing your inner child. What else? What others really cool techniques can we use to find that self-love?
Well, I think that like you have to be compassionate to yourself and be confident. I think a lot of the times when you're in toxic relationship, you think, "Oh, this is all I can get." Right?
Oh,
Yeah. So like people, I hear it, right? It's like women have like a time clock, ticking time, and they just want to be in a relationship. And I think that's the worst part of it when they just feel like, okay, this is it. I'm just gonna lock it down. It doesn't matter how bad or how good because I want a future life. I want family with this person. I think that's the worst
oh
thing
my
you
God,
can
yeah.
do because you're not saying I love myself enough to like leave you. You're saying I'm just going to put up with this and
That's
tolerate
right.
this and this is good enough for me. I say to my clients, in order to love yourself, what are your expectations? What are your non-negotiables? What is your standard?
That's
Raise your
beautiful.
standard, right? Oh, well, it's okay. He insulted me, she insulted me here and there. No, that's not okay. That's never okay to be disrespected or psychologically, emotionally, physically abused. That's never okay, not even if it happens once.
Yeah. Oh my God. Absolutely. And the fact that there's people who actually think it's okay, it breaks my heart. It's okay.
Oopsie.
I always go back to the women that are in relationships like that. I know that I want to talk so much about this that they get all their answers and
Yeah.
they leave. Like that's why I don't want to leave anything off. I'm trying to like think of like what ways can we go so that the person that's hearing this, that's in this relationship, can find the courage to leave.
I say find a therapist. I mean, I might be completely biased. Find a
No,
therapist,
no.
find a coach. It's not just therapy. You can find a coach that understands this kind of dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first, find someone that you can work through it with.
So you think guidance is key? They can't do this
Inevitable.
alone, right? Yeah.
It's inevitable to
Right.
find guidance to get to a place where you're like, okay, like now I can work on myself. You have to. There's no other way. And some people I think that listen to podcasts like yours or listen, like look at videos. People are online. People are becoming more aware of this kind of dynamic. Not everybody has rose-colored glasses anymore because we are talking about it now. When I started doing this work almost 10 years ago, no one would
my.
talk about it.
What do you think happened? Why are people so invested in it now? Because
People are more aware that it's happening, that it's actually happening, that there is narcissism out there. People are talking about the truth now when they didn't before. And people are more educated about it now. We have social media, we have online, we have YouTube, we have TikTok. So a lot of people are bringing awareness and educating others about what's really going on, the dark side of narcissism.
What's interesting to me is that there's you, who's the licensed therapist, and you do the narcissist recovery, but there's also a few on Instagram, Dr. Remy, I think
Ramani, yeah.
Dr. Ramani. And it's always like a therapist who's experienced a relationship with a narcissist that's doing this type of work now.
Oh yeah, Dr. Ramani, I would say I look up to because
Really?
the first book I ever held in my hands was hers, and this is when I was
Really?
going through a narcissistic relationship. I always said it was my Bible because
No way.
yeah, it opened my eyes so much. I didn't go back to my therapist. I worked through it, but I didn't go back to my therapist. I was like reading the book. It opened my eyes so much. It was like my therapy when I was reading the book. So it helped me a lot. She knows what she's talking about, and she says it really well. She's extremely knowledgeable in this field.
I can't wait for your book.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I am so nervous and
can't wait, but-
excited at the same time, but this book is for survivors.
Tell us what got you into writing this book, because my God, that's
So when I was going through my narcissistic relationship, I was going on and off, in and out. It was on and off for like a couple of years.
oh my gosh.
Even when I left, I just, one foot in, one foot out.
Yeah.
I think that's the toughest part too, because like you get stuck in that cycle over and over again.
How would you tell us about that before we get so sorry, because you
So
brought
for
up something
example, like
interesting.
I would leave and the narcissist would like text me like 5 months later, like with a picture reminding of us.
Oh.
That's one example.
And
to
then that would
suck you
just
in.
get you.
Oh yeah. You're looking at it and you're like, oh, because you're trauma bonded, right? You're like, you detox now, like they're bringing you back into the cycle. You're like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? I know I shouldn't. Like, again, logic says don't text back. Heart says text back, right? The heart's like emotional, right? So you're like, text back. But the logic says don't do it.
So how did you find the courage to like fully end it?
Oh,
What needed to happen for
he
Natalie
found
to
another
be-
supply.
Oh.
No, like yay me because you
Of course.
No, that's the thing about narcissists, right? They can't be alone. They have to have
They can't?
They can't be alone.
So you're saying that all those women in relationships right now, when they leave, they're easily replaceable.
Oh yeah, if they weren't replaced, like they're already finding another supply in the process, in the interim. So when you leave, guess what? There was another one right after you, or maybe even within the same time frame. So they secure supply because they can't be alone. For me, it was amazing. Sometimes I share my story to clients because my clients are like, okay, like how do you know? Like how is it possible you know this kind of stuff? So I'm very truthful. I've healed. I've really worked on it. But I've, one foot was out the door. It's just the love bombing stopped. I was already out. The love bombing stopped. The cycle
Yeah.
stopped. And it was like literally weight like lifted off my shoulders. I celebrated that day. So it was actually remarkable and so healing for me. And a lot of survivors ask me like how, like, obviously it's hard to leave because they also smear your name. They use what's called smear campaign. So they put you down, so that they make themselves look better. So, like, oh, like, or victimize themselves. Oh, poor me, she or he left me.
My God.
Oh, there's so much information, but
Give it to us.
I mean, my experience did guide me to writing my book. And because of what I was going through, I was actually using that information and my experience to write this book. And the book is 12 stages of recovery. And I realized my 12 stages and I realized other people's 12 stages is very similar to mine. And the first step is understanding the narcissist and identifying it. That would be the first stage.
Which takes a long time, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Wow, it's such a long process to overcome.
Oh,
That's why it's called the recovery.
Yes, it's
Like
called the
literally,
recovery.
it's called a recovery for a reason.
And the title's detoxing because that's kind of what it's like when you leave. Even if you leave or they leave you, you're still detoxing, right? So, sorry, guys.
Pick up if you need to. Araxia picked up.
They did? No, this is
She
a
called
client.
her husband on the show.
This is a client. Sorry?
Put her on speaker.
Put on speaker.
Oh, my kid
That
called
would
me
be
10
really
times.
funny.
Yeah, that's why it's called a recovery because it takes a long time from the abuse to kind of getting yourself back together again. My God.
Yes, putting yourself back together, putting the pieces back together. And I've heard from a lot of like other people that I've dated, their significant others reaching out and stuff and, relating to me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's nice to be at a place where I can really help people and be at a place where it's not about shaming others. It's my truth. It's my story.
And I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I love what you're doing with it.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a topic that needs to be talked about even more. I wish that more and more therapists are like open about it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's scary. And I again, for the third time, I always go back to the women who are in a relationship because I know a few. That's why it's so close to my heart. They're in a relationship like this and they're constantly calling, I don't know what to do. He did. And it's like so scary for them to leave. And when they leave, they go back in like 2 weeks is max.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like 2 weeks is what that particular person lasts. Like she goes right back. And it's like, I see what it does, and the physiological cause as well. It's, my God, it's so stressful on the body. So
yeah, the love bombing is the oxytocin.
Yeah,
like,
it is the
shoots up,
oxytocin. Absolutely.
And then the dopamine level drops
Yes.
when they start being rude and mean to you. So,
Yeah.
It's chemical.
It is chemical. And you always go back to, let me do something for them to be happy. It's just constant giving.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh my God, I've lost all this weight. Now I have thyroid issues, this and that. So I don't know. I just feel that if there's anybody out there that's experiencing this, I think this podcast it's very resourceful. It was full of information and my God, just walk away. So you're saying walk away. They're never going to change.
They're never going to change.
Walk
Never.
away. Unfortunate.
I have yet to find like someone, if anyone's out there, then correct me if I'm wrong, then prove me if I'm wrong, but you can reach out to me. But I've never met a narcissist that has changed.
Are narcissists, even the covert one or the mild ones, are they aware that they're a narcissist? Even though you can call them a narcissist, are they aware?
Some
Do
may
they acknowledge it?
Some. When they're lower on the spectrum,
Yes.
like way lower on the spectrum, they may do something about it. I've had male clients, for example, come to me and say, like I've insulted my significant other. I'm like this. I need to change. I need to work on it. So that's possibility. But when they're higher on the spectrum, they're more malignant, they're more covert. It's harder to change. They never do. Even, ask anybody that understands narcissism. They never do. Ask the survivors. Has your partner changed ever since? And I'm sure
Mm.
you've been in the relationship for, I don't know, a couple of years or more. Have they changed at all?
No,
Doubt
you'll hear
it.
him say no. Yeah, I have
Doubt it.
one friend that says he's even worse with the other partner
Oh, they get worse as they age
as they
because
age.
insecurities get worse.
Deeper and deeper and
Yep.
deeper.
Yeah. And it's sad. Yeah, it's sad. And I hear that often. Sorry, guys, what the hell? I haven't gotten this much calls in a while.
The devil doesn't want us to talk
Yeah,
about
seriously?
this. The devil's like, stop talking about me.
Oh my God, what was I saying? I was into it.
Oh, you said the change, like they never change.
A narcissist never will change. They just get worse over time.
And you said through age. Like, oh, you were saying how it's sad. Like it's sad.
Yeah,
That
it's
they
sad.
probably end up lonely, right? What happens to them?
Well, I hear people say, like, just like you said, like, oh, they're in a better space, they're in a better place, they got married, they had kids. They're never in a good place. I feel bad, because eventually their romantic relationship will just disintegrate over time. That person may be in a relationship with that for a very long time. And it would be harder to leave with kids. That's what I hear, right? I have kids. I don't want to get divorced
Yes.
because I have kids. I feel selfish for leaving because I have kids.
Oh, I hear that a lot. It's always for the children.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're going to get married and leave. What's going to happen to you?
Yeah, but also kids get the worst end of the stick,
Yeah,
from the
they destroy them.
narcissistic parent.
Mhm.
Seeing their parent be physically, emotionally, mentally abused is also not good because they're going to grow up people pleasers and they're going to grow up being with another narcissist. Is that what you want?
Or the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Or become severe narcissists themselves.
Exactly.
What is the diagnosis like? Like, what does it take for them to be, and how can you diagnose someone though? I know that it's diagnosable and it's in the book, but then like someone comes to you and you're like, oh, so what? You're a narcissist. This is your diagnosis. Here you go.
Yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I think for mental health professionals like LMFTs, we diagnose, but really narcissists don't come. So to
Exactly.
therapy. So I haven't diagnosed yet a full on NPD.
They're going to come to you and say, I'm a narcissist diagnosed. How does that work?
I've never heard that before.
Exactly.
But some have come and said, I have some tendencies that
Mhm.
I heard this and that repeatedly, and
Mhm.
this is something that I want to work on.
Yes.
I hear that, but they're not like, hey, I have a lack of empathy. I don't take accountability or
Yeah, I think I'm a
responsibility.
narcissist.
I think
exactly.
they don't usually say that. And even if you tell them, like, I think you have narcissistic traits, they won't come back because they won't like you.
Are borderlines similar to narcissists?
Antisocial
both-
personality disorder is similar to narcissism. Yeah, the insults kind of feels like bipolar,
Mhm.
victimizing themselves. That's more closer to narcissism.
Can men be borderline personalities? Or is it just for women?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. For borderline, yes. They could be. It's men or women.
That's intense.
Mm-hmm.
These personality disorders are pretty scary, Natalie.
Yeah, it is extreme.
They're scary.
We see documentaries on Netflix and stuff with like psychopathy
Yes.
and sociopaths and like, having
Definitely.
lack of empathy. It's scary, but you have to have a good radar.
I think so, but what do we need to have that though? Like just education, right? Like reading
Education,
and knowledge,
educate yourself,
right?
Yeah,
That's
and
very
I think
important.
we have a lot of that right now, especially in the social media
Mhm.
world we're living in, and
True.
it's advantages and disadvantages to social media because narcissists like to take advantage of social media to make themselves look good
Yeah.
in front of the public. So, but there's a lot of education out there and knowledge out there so that people don't feel alone in
Yeah.
this.
Are you taking new clients?
I am.
Can people reach out to you?
Yes,
Okay.
anytime.
And I'm going to link everything to the YouTube so
Okay.
that they have access to you.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my
It was a
gosh.
pleasure. It was
Always.
fun.
I hope you're okay with coming back so we can
Please.
talk about your book.
Anytime. I'll bring my book the next
Yeah?
time. Yeah, I
Okay.
would love that.
Me too.
Okay.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you.
Such a joy. Thank you guys for watching.